Okay, I was just asked to make a video going over maybe a circle or pie chart type problem as well as some percent changes. This iPad is almost dead, so hopefully it won't die before I finish this. We'll see. Okay, so first off, as far as the pie graph goes, or circle graph, whatever you want to call it. Suppose I have this, and I'll just make up some numbers. We'll say this is 40% for rent, and this is 30%, it's 20%, we'll say. 10, that was more like 50. We'll call this entertainment. Over here, we'll just split this pretty quickly. We'll say 25%, 20%, and 5%. For this, we'll say miscellaneous. For this, we'll say food. And for this, we'll say, I don't know, vacation. So suppose this is a budget. I'm just kind of making these numbers up right here. Yes, that's big enough for all of you to see. Good. Okay, if my math is correct. 40, 50, 75, 95, 100. Good, I have 100%. And suppose I tell you I earn $50,000 a year. There's a lot of different questions I can ask, but suppose I said this. If I earned $50,000 a year, how much more do I spend on rent than on food? Clearly looking at it, rent is 40% of my budget, food is 20%. So I am clearly spending more money on rent than on food. How much more? There's different ways to answer this, but one is to find out how much money I spend on rent and how much I spend on food. We know I can solve that with a proportion. So for rent, we'll do these separately. We'll put food over here. For rent, my proportion. Rent is 40%. That's 40 out of 100. And I earn $50,000, which is my total. I'm looking for the 40%. The rent, cross multiply. 100 times x is 100x. 40 times 50,000 is should be 2 million, and it is. Good. And then I divide by 100, which drops 2 zeros, and I get x equals 20,000. So I spend $20,000 on rent. Now I do the same thing for food. Let's see, food is 20%, so that's 20 out of 100. I do x over 50,000 again, because that's the total amount of money I earned. If I cross multiply, I get 100x equals 20 times 50,000, which will be 1 million. And then I divide by 100. And I get x equals, this will drop 2 zeros, 10,000. Now I can say, I pay $20,000 in rent, I pay $10,000 on food. How much more money do I spend on rent than on food? $10,000. I'd also point out, if you're spending $10,000 a year on food, that's probably too much. That sounds like a lot. That's also a very high rent there. Let's see. So again, if you're working with these circle graphs with percentages, take whatever amount you're given, whether it's money, people, whatever, it doesn't matter, take the total. You can find the amounts by using proportions of each part, and then you can compare them, add them, subtract them, whatever it is you're told to do. If we wanted to know how much money I spent on rent and food combined, 20 plus 10. So there's different, again, like I've said before, there's different types of questions you can ask. And you just have to be able to interpret that pie chart and then solve it. Okay. And then we wanted a few, other people asked for percent change problems. So suppose I have this. I sell a bike. It originally cost $100. I sell it for 80. Find the percent change. And we said, all we really need to know is the definition. We have percent change equals change over original. In this case, what's the change? The bike went from $100 to $80, so it's actually minus 20 because it went down by $20 over the original. The original price is not the biggest number or the smallest number. It changes based on the problem. It's the starting number. And in this case, this is what it started at. That's my original. And I get negative 20 over 100, which is negative 20%. And again, I do stress it doesn't matter for this class, but for 143, sometimes you'll say negative 20%. You can also say it decreases by 20%. They mean the same thing. So I don't know how your 143 instructor is doing it. They're interchangeable. Just be aware. Change over original. So, let's see. We'll word it this way. The person who bought the bike fixes it and sells it for $110. Find the percent change. If we want percent change, again, it's always the same. Percent change is change over original. The change here, he bought the bike for $80. He sold it for $110. What's the change? $30. What's the original? Here, the original was his original price, which is the amount he bought it for. He bought it for 80. So it's 30 over 80. Which then gives me 3/8, which if you put it into your calculator, will be 37.5%. And again, the point, on each problem, you have to read the problem and understand what's the change, what's the original. Last one. Let's see. I have 50 employees. Then I hire a bunch. And now I have 85. What was the percent change? Again, we know by definition, percent change is change over original. But here we have to be careful. What was the change? It was not 50 or 85. It was a difference between them. That's how much my employee count changed. 50 to 85, I went up by 35. What was my original? My original is how many employees I started with, which is 50. So it's 35 out of 50, which is 70%. So again, your original does not have to be the biggest value or the smallest value. It's the starting value. You have to make sure to read the problems carefully and say, okay, where did I start and where did I finish? Original is where I started, and then I don't care about where I finished at 85. I care about the difference between them, the change. That's why it's percent change. If there are any more questions, again, feel free to let me know, and I can make more videos. I can write out problems on separate paper and solve them out, and then upload like pictures of me, like with all the solutions worked out. Whatever will help you, just let me know. It's not a problem.